They'd been friends for months. Not the vague kind of friendship that lives on text messages and occasional check-ins, but the steady lived-in kind. The kind built from repetition, from routine, from being there without having to announce it. They met the same way they did most nights now, at the end of her block, where the streetlight flickered just enough to feel intimate without being dark. He walked her home after dinner again, not because she asked, not because she needed it. It had just become their thing. First it was practical. The city got quieter after 9. She mentioned it once, half joking, and he'd offered without ceremony. After that it stuck. They talked about everything and nothing on those walks. Work frustrations, half-finished plans, the strange comfort of routines you didn't mean to build. They never talked about this. About the way the air shifted when they stopped outside her building. About how the walk always ended just a little slower than it needed to. Tonight is no different. They stop at her door, the same place they always do. The hallway smells faintly like cleaning solution and warm dust. The overhead light hums softly. She digs into her bag for her keys, the familiar motion grounding her. He stands just behind her shoulder, close enough that she's aware of him without turning around. "Thanks for walking me," she says like she always does. "Anytime," he replies like he always does. Routine. Predictable. Except tonight something feels heavier. She doesn't know when it started. Maybe halfway through dinner, when he laughed and looked at her a second longer than usual. Maybe when she realized she'd chosen this place because it was closer to her apartment. Or maybe it's just that they've run out of ways to pretend nothing's been building. She unlocks the door, pushes it open halfway, then pauses. This is where it usually ends. He waits. She steps inside. They say goodnight. He walks away. Except tonight neither of them moves. She turns back toward him slowly. "You want some water?" she asks. The question surprises both of them. It's casual, almost careless. But it's also the first time she's ever invited him past the threshold. He doesn't answer right away. He looks at her, really looks. Like he's weighing not the offer itself, but what it would change. "Sure," he says finally. "If it's not a hassle." "It's not," she replies too quickly, then softens it with a smile. "Really?" She steps back to make room. He crosses the threshold deliberately, not brushing past her, not rushing. The door clicks shut behind them with a quiet finality that makes her breath hitch just a little. Her apartment is warm. Dimly. Lived in without being cluttered. He's been here before, briefly once or twice, but never like this. Never this late. Never with the sense that staying might mean something. "Make yourself comfortable," she says, toeing off her shoes. He does the same, placing them neatly by the door. She goes to the kitchen, pours water into 2 glasses. Her hands are steady, but her thoughts aren't. She's aware of him behind her, of the quiet presence that's become familiar over months of walking side by side, of how different it feels inside 4 walls. She hands him a glass. "Thanks." Their fingers brush. Just barely. It's nothing. It should be nothing. Except neither of them pulls away immediately. She notices the warmth of his skin. He notices the way her breath changes. They let go at the same time. "Long day?" he asks. "Yeah," she admits. "You?" "Same." They stand there. Kitchen light spilling around them. Conversation thinning into something quieter. More intentional. She gestures toward the living room. "Seat." He nods. They sit on opposite ends of the couch at first. Muscle memory. Familiar distance. She tucks her legs beneath her, wrapping her hands around her glass. He leans back, one arm resting along the back of the couch, not reaching for her, not closing the space. For a few minutes they talk like they always do. About work. About a movie he watched. About a small inconvenience that shouldn't matter but somehow does. And then the conversation slows. Not awkwardly. Just naturally. She shifts slightly, adjusting the way she's sitting. Her knee brushes the side of his thigh. It's accidental. She stills instantly. "Sorry," she says. "It's okay," he replies. He doesn't move away. Neither does she. The contact is small but unmistakable. A point of warmth that draws her attention back to her body in a way she hadn't expected. Minutes pass. The contact remains. She becomes aware of the rise and fall of his breathing. of how solid his leg feels beneath the light pressure of her knee, of the fact that he could shift and hasn't. She shifts again, this time more deliberately, angling herself just slightly toward him. Her knee presses more firmly against his thigh now. He exhales slowly. "You comfortable?" he asks, voice low. "Yes," she says, honest. He nods. "Good." The simplicity of it settles something in her. She leans back just a fraction, her shoulder brushing against his arm. This time there's no apology. His arm tenses once, then relaxes, adjusting so it rests more naturally behind her. Still not touching, but close. "I didn't plan for tonight to be different," she says quietly. "Me neither," he replies. "But it feels like it is," she adds. "Yes," he agrees. She turns her head slightly, looking at him now. His expression is calm, but there's something held there, something careful. "I don't want this to be weird," she says. "It doesn't feel weird," he says. "It feels overdue." The word lands softly, but it stays. She swallows. They've never said that out loud before. She shifts again, closing the distance between them just enough that her thigh now rests fully against his. Her shoulder leans into his arm. He responds instinctively, arm settling more securely behind her shoulders, not pulling her in but making it clear he's not moving away. Her breath slows. "This okay?" she asks. "Yes," he answers immediately. "Tell me if it stops being okay." She nods. They sit like that for a long moment, bodies aligned, the space between them no longer theoretical. The quiet stretches, not empty but full. She notices the way his jaw tightens slightly, restrained. He notices the way her fingers flex against her glass. Then still. She sets the glass down on the table. He follows a moment later. Neither of them looks away now. "I think," she says carefully, "that if we don't acknowledge this, it's going to keep following us." He considers that. "I think you're right. And I don't want to rush it," she adds. "I don't either," he says. She leans in just enough that her forehead nearly touches his shoulder. The contact is light, intentional. He inhales, then relaxes, his body adjusting to support her without question. They don't kiss. They don't need to. This is already a line crossed, just not the one people usually talk about. She closes her eyes briefly, resting there, letting the weight of months of unspoken tension settle into something real. "I'm glad you stayed," she murmurs. "So am I," he replies. Outside, the city continues on, unaware. Inside, something quiet and inevitable has finally been acknowledged. They've been friends for months. Tonight is just the first time neither of them pretended that was all it was. She doesn't realize how late it's gotten until the quiet changes. Not suddenly, just subtly. The city outside her window lowers its voice. The distant traffic thins. The hum of the refrigerator becomes noticeable in the pauses between their words. They're still sitting close on the couch. Closer than friends. Not touching in any dramatic way, just aligned. Her shoulder rests lightly against his arm. His presence feels steady, intentional. Neither of them has moved away. She shifts first, not to create distance but to turn toward him fully. Her knee slides slightly, angling so they're facing each other more directly now. "This feels different," she says quietly. He nods. "It is. But not sudden," she adds. "No," he agrees. "It's been building." That acknowledgement, simple, honest, untangles something in her chest. For months she's questioned whether she was imagining it, whether the walks meant more to her than they did to him. Hearing him say it out loud changes everything. "I think I was afraid to say anything," she admits, "because I didn't want to lose what we already had." "I thought the same thing," he says. "But lately it's felt like pretending was starting to cost more than being honest." She lets out a soft breath. Exactly. The space between them feels smaller now, but not tense. Clear. She glances down at his hand resting near his thigh, relaxed but still. Not reaching. Waiting. "You're very patient," she says. "With things that matter," he replies. Her heart thumps a little harder at that. She makes a choice then, not rushed, not impulsive. She lifts her hand and rests it lightly on his forearm. It's a small gesture. Feels enormous. He stills for half a second, then relaxes, turning his arm slightly so her hand fits more naturally there. "Is this okay?" she asks softly. "Yes," he answers immediately. She watches his face as she lets her fingers curl just slightly, grounding herself in the reality of the moment. He's calm, present, not pushing. That makes it easier to lean in. She shifts closer, closing the remaining inches between them until her thigh presses fully against his. His arm responds instinctively, sliding behind her shoulders, not pulling her in but offering support. She exhales, leaning into it. This feels right, she murmurs. It does, he agrees. They sit like that for a long moment, breathing in sync, the quiet heavy with intention instead of uncertainty. I don't want this to be something we don't talk about tomorrow, she says after a while. It won't be, he says. Whatever this is, we'll be clear about it. That reassurance matters more than the closeness itself. She tilts her head slightly, resting it against his shoulder. The contact is gentle but deliberate. He lowers his chin instinctively, the side of his face brushing her hair. They don't move away. This started with walks, she says, half smiling. He chuckles softly. Yeah, I didn't expect that. I think part of me did, she admits. I just didn't know when. Maybe it was always going to take time, he says, to feel safe enough. She nods against him. I like that we took it. They sit there until the clock on the wall quietly ticks past midnight. Eventually she straightens slightly, though she doesn't fully pull away. So, she says, voice lighter but still sincere. What happens now? He considers that, not nervously but thoughtfully. Now, he says, we stop pretending we're just friends who walk each other home. And, she asks, and we take this at the same pace we've taken everything else, he replies. Honestly. Intentionally. She smiles, the tension in her shoulders finally easing. I'd like that, she says. He meets her gaze, steady and warm. Me too. She leans in first this time. Not rushing. Not dramatic. Their lips meet softly, briefly. A kiss that feels less like ignition and more like confirmation. His hand tightens slightly at her shoulder, grounding her. Hers stays anchored to his arm, present and sure. When they part, neither of them pulls far away. That, she says quietly, felt exactly like it should have. Yes, he agrees. They don't kiss again right away. They don't need to. Instead, they settle back into the couch, still close, arms comfortably around each other now. The shift feels natural, earned by months of restraint rather than undone by one moment. She rests her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. He rests his cheek lightly against her hair. I'm glad you stayed tonight, she says. So am I, he replies. Outside, the city sleeps. Inside, nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels confusing. They didn't stumble into this. They walked toward it, step by step, until stopping no longer made sense. They'd been friends for months. Tonight was simply the moment they let themselves be more, without losing what made it matter in the first place.